Rain pelted the glass windows of Grace Bean Cafe like 1,000 impatient knocks. Seoul's evening rush had thinned, leaving only the soft hum of espresso machines and muffled footsteps outside. Janet Walker pressed a trembling hand over her chest, counting her breaths like her therapist taught her. The panic had come fast. One careless glimpse of a bridal ad on the subway. One reminder of everything she had survived. Her heart still didn't know she was free. She wiped the corners of her eyes quickly and opened her worn Bible. The pages felt familiar, like home. Her gaze fell on a verse she had highlighted during better days. "Do not fear, for I am with you." Isaiah 41, verse 10. The words blurred slightly as tears welled again. "Lord," she whispered, "I'm trying." Her voice cracked. She didn't notice the barista approaching until his shadow stretched across her table. Miss?" His voice was cautious, as if he feared interrupting a sacred moment. "We're technically closing soon, but—" He hesitated. "But you can stay, if you need to." Janet looked up. He was young, maybe late 20s, soft brown eyes, tired but kind. Damp strands of hair clung to his forehead from rushing to bring in outdoor chairs. His name tag read, Ha-joon. "Thank you," Janet murmured, brushing a stray tear from her cheek. He glanced at the open Bible. "Isaiah?" She blinked, surprised. "You recognized it?" Ha-joon swallowed, eyes flickering with a memory that hurt. "My mother used to read that verse to me when I was scared," he said softly. "She'd say—" His voice faltered, then steadied. "If God is with you, fear doesn't get to stay." Janet smiled, small but real. "She sounds wise." She was. The past tense drew a quiet ache across his features. He shifted awkwardly. "I used to pray a lot. Sing worship songs too, but after—" He exhaled, searching for words. "After I lost someone I loved, I thought maybe God wasn't listening anymore." Janet tilted her head. "So you stopped talking to him?" He nodded once. "I stopped believing he wanted to talk back." Silence settled between them. Not heavy, just honest. Janet closed her Bible slowly. "I thought God abandoned me too," she whispered. "My fiancé left me 3 days before the wedding. Said he found someone better." Her laugh was short and bitter. "I went from picking flowers to picking up the pieces." Ha-joon pulled out the chair across from her, but waited for her permission. Her small nod was all he needed. "You're still believing," he said gently. She stared at her Bible as if it were both anchor and weight. "Some days, I just open it so I don't drown." Ha-joon's gaze softened. "Maybe that's faith." A peaceful quiet wrapped around them. Outside, the rain slowed to a drizzle, like heaven exhaling. The cafe lights flickered as the closing announcement chimed softly overhead. Janet reached for her bag, but Ha-joon stood quickly. "No, wait," he said, more urgently than he meant to. I don't want this conversation to end." Janet looked into his eyes and felt something she hadn't felt in months. A spark of hope that didn't terrify her. She swallowed hard. "Me neither." Ha-joon glanced toward the door, then back at her, unsure but drawn. "Can you stay just a little longer?" he asked. Janet didn't trust men right now, but she trusted this moment, and she trusted the God who had seen her tears before they fell. She nodded, and two strangers, with hearts patched together by grace, stayed at a table neither of them had meant to choose, but God had. The cafe door chimed quietly behind them as they stepped into the cool Seoul evening. The rain had settled into a steady drizzle, soft, almost gentle, like the city was whispering instead of roaring. Ha-joon popped open his umbrella, instinctively holding it over Janet's head. She blinked at the gesture. unexpected kindness sending a faint warmth through her chest. "You don't have to walk me," she said, though her voice lacked conviction. Ha-joon shrugged slightly. "I know, but I want to." They walked slowly, their footsteps sinking on the wet pavement. Janet watched the city lights reflect across puddles like tiny, quivering promises. Ha-joon's voice was low. "I think God forgot me." The confession escaped like a secret he'd hidden too long. Janet looked at him, truly looked. Not the polite glance of strangers, the gaze of someone who understood broken faith. "I thought he forgot me too," she said quietly. He met her eyes. The honesty there surprised him. They reached a crosswalk that blinked red. While they waited, Ha-joon exhaled hard. "My brother. He was the one who taught me how to pray. Every night he'd tell me, 'Talk to God like you're talking to family.'" A small smile tugged his lips. He was the one in the hospital bed, and he was the one telling me not to worry. Janet listened, heart tightening. "When he died," Ha-joon continued, "I kept praying. But the more I prayed, the quieter heaven felt." He swallowed. "So I stopped. I figured God wasn't listening anymore." Janet hugged her arms around herself. The rain wasn't cold, but memories were. "My fiancé said God wasn't enough," she whispered. "He said if God really loved me, he wouldn't let me be so small." Her voice cracked. "So he replaced me." As if I was a decorating mistake. Ha-joon's umbrella tilted slightly as his hand curled in anger. Not at her, but at whoever dared to wound her like that. "You were never small," he said, fierce and certain. Janet blinked fast. No one had defended her in months. Then, unexpectedly, Ha-joon laughed. It burst out awkwardly, almost at the wrong time. "I'm sorry," he said, running a hand through his hair. "I just realized we are standing in the rain, sharing trauma like it's a first date activity." Janet stared at him, then laughed too, startled by the sound of it. A laugh she didn't have to force. A laugh she hadn't heard from herself since before her world fell apart. Ha-joon's eyes softened as he listened to her laughter, like he had been waiting for it without knowing. The crosswalk switched to green, and they stepped forward. A gust of wind rattled the umbrella. Ha-joon paused, then slowly lowered it. Janet frowned in confusion. "What are you doing?" He tucked the umbrella under his arm and let the raindrops hit his hair, his face. "I don't want you walking in the rain alone," he said simply. "So, I'll walk through it with you." Her breath caught. No grand gestures, no manipulations, just sincerity. The kind love builds foundations on. They reached the corner of her street. Ha-joon shifted from one foot to the other, boldness and fear wrestling inside him. "Janet," he began. His voice carried hope, trembling but real. "Can we meet again tomorrow?" Janet froze. Tomorrow. A word that used to terrify her. Tomorrow meant expectations, vulnerability, a risk her heart wasn't sure it could take. Her lips parted, but fear stepped in first, tightening her chest. Ha-joon," she whispered, eyes dropping to the pavement. Her silence said what her heart was too afraid to admit. "I want to, but I don't trust myself to survive another heartbreak." Ha-joon saw the hesitation. He didn't push. He simply nodded, his smile gentle, but hopeful. "Just pray about it," he said. "God will decide if tomorrow is a good idea." Janet's breath hitched. He turned to leave, walking into the rain without the umbrella. She stood under the dim streetlight, watching him disappear around the corner. And for the first time in a long while, her fear didn't feel like the only voice in her chest. Maybe God was not finished with her story. The next evening, Janet stood outside Grace Bean Cafe, clutching the strap of her purse like it was the last thread keeping her from unraveling. She had prayed hard, and somehow, after a long, trembling conversation with God, she texted Ha-joon. Okay, tomorrow. Tomorrow had become today. And today? Her heart was pounding like a trapped bird desperate for air. The door swung open before she could gather courage. Ha-joon stepped out with a shy smile and hopeful eyes that made her chest flutter. You came, he breathed, like a prayer answered. Janet nodded, shy warmth blooming inside her. They walked along the sidewalk lined with autumn-lit street lamps. Ha-joon casually reached for her hand, slow enough for her to refuse if she wanted. Her fingers tingled as his thumb brushed her knuckles. Then she heard it. Not from him. Not even about her. But her heart didn't care about logic. Two women exiting a boutique whispered just behind them. Poor guy. He keeps trying to date someone new to get over his guilt. Yeah, just searching for anyone to fill the hole his brother left. They giggled and walked away. Janet's chest tightened instantly. Cold. Sharp. Every wound in her heart screamed, you're just another replacement, another bandage, another girl to prove he moved on. Ha-joon noticed her sudden tension. Janet, he asked softly, turning toward her. She stepped back as if burned. I need space, she croaked. Confusion clouded his face. Did I do something wrong? She couldn't answer, couldn't breathe. Couldn't think past the betrayal replaying in her mind. Her ex-fiancé's voice echoed, you were good enough for the moment, but not the future. Ha-joon reached toward her again. Gentle, concerned. Please talk to me, he pleaded. Janet jerked her hand out of reach. No, she whispered, voice breaking. I can't do this. And she fled. Not because he wasn't kind, but because fear convinced her kindness was fake. Ha-joon remained rooted on the sidewalk long after she disappeared, rain gathering quietly in his hair. Again. He didn't chase her. He simply whispered into the night, God, what did I mess up this time? Janet found a seat on the evening bus, her heart a storm. The engine hummed beneath her as the city lights streaked across the windows. She finally looked up. Her reflection stared back at her, distorted by glass and doubt. Not a woman freed, not a woman brave, a woman ruled by fear. Her lip trembled. Lord, she whispered, tears threatening again. I don't want to be this anymore. The bus lurched forward, but her world felt stuck, held hostage by wounds she thought she left in another country. She closed her eyes tight. If God was with her, why did fear still feel louder? The rain tapped the window like a relentless question, one she wasn't sure she knew how to answer. Janet didn't remember how she reached her apartment. One moment she was staring at her reflection on the bus. The next she was on her bedroom floor, drenched in silence and regret. She wrapped her arms around her knees, drawing herself small, like she could hide from the ache she carried everywhere. Her voice cracked as she whispered into the dark, Lord, heal what I keep protecting. It was the first honest prayer she'd prayed since her heart broke. No poetic verses, no brave declarations, just truth, raw, trembling truth. She reached for her phone, not to text Ha-joon, but to open the one app she had been avoiding lately, her Bible. The screen flickered as the daily verse loaded. Her breath caught. Isaiah 41, verse 10. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. The same verse. From the cafe. The same verse. That made her stay at the table with Ha-joon. The same verse. God kept putting in front of her as if refusing to be ignored. Janet covered her mouth, eyes stinging. God, is that you trying again? because she was tired of letting fear be her only answer. Meanwhile, Ha-joon paced his tiny living room, guilt a storm inside him. He replayed every moment from earlier, every word he wished he'd said differently. Maybe she thinks I'm using her. Maybe she thinks I'm broken beyond repair. His chest tightened. He glanced at the dusty Bible sitting untouched on his shelf, a relic of a faith he thought he'd lost. Slowly, with shaking hands, he picked it up. Ha-joon dropped to his knees. "I don't know how to do this anymore," he whispered. "I don't know how to be your son again." His voice broke, "But I miss you, Father." Tears finally escaped. Years worth of silence, grief, and pride melting. "I don't know if I deserve love," he choked out. "But if you're not finished with me, please don't let me push her away." He sat still as the room breathed around him, and for the first time since his brother's death, peace didn't feel like a stranger. Janet wiped her cheeks, staring at the verse glowing softly on her screen. Something urged her to check her messages. A new notification appeared. Her heart skipped. "Ha-joon, I'm not giving up on God, and I'm not giving up on you." The phone slipped from her hands as a sob tore free. Not from pain, from release, from hope breaking through the cracks. She pressed her forehead to the floor. "Thank you," she whispered through tears. "Thank you for not letting fear have the final word." Outside, rain tapped gently on her window. Not like a storm now, but like applause from heaven. 3 days later, Grace Bean Cafe looked different tonight. Not in the decor. The chairs were the same warm wood, the walls still lined with verses in tiny frames. But something in the air felt changed. Janet paused at the entrance, her hand poised on the door. Her heart thudded nervously, but beneath it rested something new. Courage. She pushed the door open. Ha-joon was there, at the same table where Grace had found them the first time. His Bible lay open in front of him, but he wasn't reading. His hands trembled slightly on the pages, as if faith was returning to him one shaky breath at a time. His eyes lifted when he sensed her presence. For a moment, shock froze his expression. Then relief washed through him like sunrise after a long night. "You came," he breathed. Janet stepped closer, her voice soft. "I'm sorry I ran. You were scared." He looked down, swallowing. "I'm scared too." Something fragile and holy settled between them. Janet took the seat across from him, but that felt too far, so she moved to the chair beside him, close enough to hear his heartbeat, close enough to let him hear hers. With slow bravery, she reached for his hand. His fingers curled around hers like a man grabbing hope with both hands. "I think," she whispered, emotion swelling in her chest, "we're supposed to heal. Together." Ha-joon's breath caught. His eyes glimmered, not simply with attraction, but with wonder. "Janet," he murmured, "can we pray? Just a small prayer. Together?" She nodded, fiercely, tearfully. They bowed their heads, their hands joined tightly. Fear trembled through them, but faith held stronger. Ha-joon spoke first, voice breaking. "Lord, thank you for helping us meet, and for meeting us in the ruins." Janet continued, tears slipping freely. "Thank you for writing something new, even when we're afraid to turn the page." Silence. Sweet, reverent, 2 hearts, 1 God. No coincidences. When they whispered amen, they didn't rush to separate. They looked up and realized simultaneously, this moment, this connection, this peace that finally quieted the storm, it wasn't luck, it wasn't random, it was an answered prayer. Janet smiled through lingering tears. "So, tomorrow?" she asked, hopeful but shy. Ha-joon squeezed her hand. With God, he said gently, we can have as many tomorrows as he gives. Outside, the rain had stopped. The night was still. But inside that cafe, love was just beginning to breathe. Sunday sunlight trickled through the stained glass windows of Seoul Grace Fellowship, painting the sanctuary in gentle hues of blue and gold. It was the kind of morning that felt like a gift. Quiet, new, promising. Janet stood just inside the entrance, smoothing invisible wrinkles from her dress. Her heart drummed with excitement and a pinch of nerves. Being in a church again made her feel both safe and exposed. Like God could see every part of her she was still learning to trust. Then she heard her name. Janet! Ha-joon approached with that soft smile that always made fear loosen its grip just a little. He wore a simple white shirt, sleeves rolled neatly to his wrists. His Bible was tucked under one arm, carried not as a symbol of duty, but as a friend he'd finally come home to. You look at peace, he said, admiration in his voice. I feel like I'm learning to breathe again, she replied. Ha-joon offered the crook of his arm. Let's breathe together then. She looped her arm through his. They took their seats, side by side, close enough that their shoulders brushed gently. Then worship begins. Soft guitar chords filled the air. The worship leader encouraged the congregation to stand. Janet hesitated, then rose with Ha-joon. As the first lyrics began, she noticed him close his eyes, his expression tender, reverent, like a child remembering the sound of his father's voice. His voice joined the melody, a gentle tenor, rich and healing. Janet felt the pull, not of romance, but of worship, the kind that mends the quietest wounds. She found herself singing too, hesitantly at first, then with growing strength. Their voices intertwined, not perfectly, but beautifully, like two stories God was stitching together in real time. Ha-joon opened his eyes mid-verse and caught her looking, the tiny, involuntary smile he gave her. It felt like God smiling through him. The pastor spoke of fear, how it masquerades as protection, how it builds walls that even God must be invited to tear down. Faith is not the absence of fear. It is choosing God stronger than the fear. Janet felt the words wrap around her heart like a warm hand. Ha-joon exhaled, his own silent amen. Without thinking, Janet's fingers reached for his, and Ha-joon's grip tightened instantly. No shame, no hiding, just two hearts admitting they still needed God and each other after service. They stepped outside into sunlight. No rain today, only promise. Ha-joon stopped suddenly, turning to face her fully. I don't know what the future holds, he said softly, but I know this. God brought us together for a reason. Janet felt tears prick again, not the painful kind, the healed kind. And I'm ready, she said, ready to live like I believe that. His eyes lit with both gratitude and wonder. Then, Ha-joon asked, voice hopeful, is it okay if I stay by your side while God continues writing our story? Janet's response was a laugh smile, bright and sure. Only if I can stay by yours. He extended his hand, not forcing, not rushing. She took it, boldly this time. Fear once convinced them love was dangerous. God convinced them love was worth trusting again. Two broken hearts, one faithful God. A love planted in prayer, now learning to bloom. As they walked toward the cafe for lunch, hand in hand in the warmth of a new afternoon, Janet breathed a quiet truth. This wasn't a coincidence. You are the prayer I didn't expect God to answer. Ha-joon smiled. And you are the grace I forgot he could give. The end.